Greetings, my fellow freedom love-solving thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to the LO3 podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the wild and wonderful Mountain State. Today's date is Thursday, July 29th, 2021. Yeah, early Thursday. Ooh, man, some really morose news out here. Dusty Hill from ZZ Top passed away at 72. Been in the band for around 40 years, I would say. In the market. Blues, shuffle. Texas shuffle blues, you would say. Real shame, I know they had a gentleman named Elwood who was a guitar tech for the band, was filling in. And it was really disheartening to hear. And read about it and post and all that. And you notice it's very disheartening because some great musicians has passed in this 2-week span. Now you got like two from Cinderella, Jeff LaBar and Gary Corbett, died in the same day on that. And they were like in their 50s, early 60s, late 58. And of course, John Hutchison, it was a guitar player for David Bowie, passed recently. And so did Robbie Steinhardt, who played the violin for Kansas. Suffered from pancreatic-related illness. Of course, Joey Jordison from Slipknot, the original drummer and founding member. He was only 46. And don't forget Mike Howe, vocalist for Metal Church, and he did an album with Heretic as well before joining Metal Church. He was only 55. Sometimes you always gotta look at life in these areas. And people just get amazed, of course, get surprised. And it's really sad. It doesn't matter if you like these band's music or not. It's entertainment. I used to make fun of bands like Cinderella in my early years. To flip that ass and all that. But one thing about them, they like to entertain the crowd. And that's cool. So long as they got that good vibe. Of course, Hutchison, he did his thing even with jazz as well. And Joey Jordison, seen him play. You know, I wasn't a big diehard Slipknot fan, but he wasn't some Yahoo drummer. That's all I gotta say. And I was reading an article from Disable Magazine today when they found out he had multiple sclerosis. You know, and that was very morose indeed. Of course, we all know too Dusty, he was ill. So, may all their souls remain forever free, and thank you for putting out great music. Regardless if you like them or not. They did all their contributions. And like I said, you live once, folks, you value it. And always pay your respects. And always love thy neighbor. Yeah, even the whole masking mandates on the craze. Sharia law lights trying to spread like fire in Broward County schools, and even a lot of the parents were against it. They passed it unanimously. And it was funny about it because a lot of the folks on opposition went to the meetings and they had to end it because what was that one woman's name? Dr. Osgood made a claim it was an insurrection. Talk about softy. Oh, I'm the William Snowflake. It was an insurrection. Oh, I love it. I saw a photo too with Chris Nelson. You know, homage to him and his girlfriend. Man, they had the catering tray and they burnt the mask right up front of the school building. I love it. It's like Sharia law light, right? And the fact is this, because one student who was 15 years old passed, but she suffered from COVID and had on a ventilator. I'm not saying COVID doesn't exist by any means, okay? And I'm not going to say it's a hoax or anything like that. Everyone's affected differently. But the problem is, when you got all these politicians and bureaucrats, they just exploited the crap out of it and all try to have us live in fear. And look what's going on, too, with the Delta variant, because some even a good amount of honorable doctors are saying it's not as strong as the coronavirus and the COVID-19. So, it's just like, hey, and even folks out there have proof that they're showing the germs and bacteria on the mask itself. And plus, even, University of Florida did a little research on that, and they said the same thing. There was at least like 13 pathogens of bacteria on those masks from the students, children themselves. And Broward County says, oh, we got to put the mask on. They're even doing it, too, on government jobs, whether it's local, state, or federal. I know there's an article on Defense One wants everyone to wear the mask, get the shot, and all that. It's like, take the shot, or you lose your job. They're doing it in the NFL, so we could do it right now. Even some of the labor organizations are trying to push for that. They had a little cancellation on Broadway because the actress that's a member of the Actors Equity Union got COVID, and they had to cancel that. Of course, you got folks out there to try to sell you that propaganda machine. It's the unvaccinated. Whatever you do, folks, don't buy it. Beware of the Jim Cronian rhetoric trying to separate us. I see photos like that. I saw one photo like that I posted last week at the Vancouver International Airport. They had the one line for vaccinated and the other line for the unvaccinated. They even did this at the Broward County School meeting too, separating the people. You know, hell, we should just bring talk about, hey, how they feel. Hey, we should have like water fountains for different people as well, right? One vaccinated group and one unvaccinated. Have like the bird fountain, so the water fountain shape of a bird fountain. Think about that, right? Let that sink in, people. And of course, Congress trying to pass a bill that use digital money instead. Totally is an invalid contract, impairing contract, which conflicts with Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution. All you gotta do, folks, is read and do your homework. And I know there's one attorney, I think his name is Robert Rentz. I think it's Robert Rentz? I don't know, or Larry Rentz, excuse me, but you go to rents.law, renz-law.com. And he had a lawsuit filed against the Health and Human Services for inaccurate data cases of COVID-related deaths after the jab. Some people call it the Trump jab, which I understand, and because that time President Trump was pushing forward, he talked about, oh, we got the vaccine and all that. And in reality, is it? Some doc scientists say it was a pathogen, not a natural vaccine. Is this really just? All you got, like I said, I just scratch my head. Man, it's just one of those areas, and everyone wants to go out there and want to belly up, hook, line, and sinker. I will sell my rear end. I will take the jab for my own well-being. Now, not my president, Joe Biden, is still pushing for it, calling it patriotic duty. And the hyena herself, bald, privileged Vice President Kamala Harris, like Huey and Dewey. And even the one doctor, former White House doctor for both Barack Obama and Donald Trump, said Joe Biden needs to take a cognitive test. Well, I'm not too surprised because he is not all there. I don't even like the man based on his past actions, his hypocrisy, his oath-breaking habits, habitual offender. I call him a political criminal. Yeah, I call him that. The man who supports the Patriot Act, wants to push more for the RICO Act, invasion of Iraq. Yeah, that's a real pro-liberty man we have in there right now. But on his conditions, I'll never beat anyone when they're down. This is why I always tell folks, hate the sin, not the sinner. Judge them by their actions. I don't wish this man any will ill, but he has a lot of issues. And I heard there's big divisions, even in the military. I tell him to stick it. So, and of course, infrastructure, more money trying to be printed out of thin air. I suggest all the states in the union to focus more on doing transactions with gold and silver. Because that it is important to get that done. Is the Article 1 section of the U.S. Constitution? Yeah, I might have to look that up. I may just mix. If I make a discrepancies in certain sections, I do apologize, folks. And there goes Article 1, Section 9. I could be mistaken on the impairing contracts. So you can look it up. It's very interesting. It's good to know these things. Yeah. So more mayhem and all that. Sometimes so many things are happening, I even lose track. Speaking of one of the three key elements of ruling the world, which is one, of course, the military-industrial complex, banking, and of course, the drug lords, big pharma. We're going to focus on one of these areas, which is mainly, I believe, is finances. Financial structure and all that. May expect a financial collapse. We'll just find out how different some places may be affected. It's been a lot of talk due to all this printing up money. They think it's okay, print up money out of thin air. Pew! Well, what do you mean? What are you talking about the Weimar Republic? Well, what happened? Was that going to happen to us? Never know. Never say never, right? Well, this one here was written by Brandon Smith. I think it's called Alt Market, but he does share on BobLivingstonLetter.com. And this one's entitled "The Establishment Must Diminish Alternative Analysis as Crisis Unfold." And as it reads here, there is a notion within the mainstream media that certain economic indicators are unsaleable. They never stop being reliable. The way they look at and report on the system is rather outdated and extremely limited scope, showcasing and cherry-picking only net positive statistics, even if those stats don't represent reality. The result is a kind of holographic view of the financial structure, a mirage of a healthy and vibrant foundation that simply does not exist. This fraudulent view appeals to the masses for a time because it provides fuel to false hopes. In economics, an analyst must always account for two major factors, the hard math and human psychology. These factors tend to conflict during times when a financial bubble is present, and they tend to converge when such bubbles implode. One must never underestimate the power of public psychology. Though, even when the math is screaming that danger is present in the system, a naive and misinformed populace coupled with central bank manipulation can keep a dead economy in a state of profane reanimation for much longer than seems logically possible. This magic shows only lasts for too long. However, and eventually the truth strikes those with blind faith in the machine brutally and without mercy. On the financial side of the great farce, most of the positive signs we see are purely debt-driven. Cheap debt and credit liquidity has kept zombie banks alive for years beyond their expiration date, but it has also trickled down onto Main Street, where we see extensive commercial retail develop and a spike in employment opportunities. Of course, the box stores and construction are being undertaken by developers deep in the red, and most of the debt will not be paid off for years after, if at all. Any rise in job creations extend from low-wage service jobs being available in abundance. Higher wage jobs that support families are dwindling, which explains why companies looking to fill vacant employed positions are having such a hard time. Over 95 million working-age people are unemployed in the U.S., but are not counted as unemployed by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Millions now find it more profitable to stay home and collect benefits than slave away in McDonald's or Walmart. The stock market itself is essentially another debt bubble driven by corporate stock buybacks that have funded for years by overnight loans from the Federal Reserve, as well as near zero interest rates. As interest rates rise, the debt becomes unserviceable, and thus the bull market begins to fizzle and stocks begin to plunge. As I have concerned often over the years, that which we see in the mainstream version of economic events is rarely, if ever, supported by concrete evidence. The established media acts not as an information source, but as a tool for encouraging public ignorance, which can be exploited to feed the broken economy for just a little while longer. I suspect some of these gatekeepers even pride themselves as liars with a noble purpose. The purpose being to mold perception of the system and thereby extend the life of the system. They see themselves as guardians. I see them as saboteurs. While many in the public do not make it in their ambition to become experts on the mechanics of the economy, people still tend to sense instinctively when something is broken with the fiscal environment. They may not know why there is a problem, but absurd optimism can only levitate them above the muck for so long. Recent events are beginning to reveal the extent of the fantasy. These are issues that alternative analysis have been worrying about for the better part of the past decade, but only now in the past year is this information being taken seriously. I have seen a propaganda meme flooding onto discussion boards recently in reference to the alternative economists, and it goes a little something like this. Alternative economists are doom and gloomers that have been wrong for 10 years, but a broken clock is still right twice a day. I find this info argument somewhat hilarious because of the extraordinary level of dishonesty inherent in it, but I also find it revealing in a way. First, let's be clear, alternative economists have been right for the past 10 years and far ahead of the mainstream in terms of predicting fiscal trends based on real data. As I have always said, economic collapse is a process, not an event. It's something that happens in stages or phases over time, not something that occurs overnight or in a span of a few days. People who think that a national global disaster is a sudden and inexplicable affair watch far too much television. They also don't understand that the historic monuments of crisis we read about in books are merely a culmination of years of decline. Most, if not all, crashes are preceded by years of warning signs that should have been heeded at the time but were mostly ignored. Throughout the 1920s, Austrian economics Ludwig von Mises predicted the collapse of the German mark as well as the stock market crash in 1929. In 1931, after the initial crash, he also predicted that central bank interventions through interest rate increases and other measures would prolong the disaster rather than end it. Mises saw the dangers well in advance, but he was ignored until it was too late. His writings from this time period can be studied in a published collection titled The Causes of Economic Crisis. Folks, look it up. He was good, okay? Was Mises a broken clock that just happened to be right after years of incorrect predictions? Looking back on the complexity of the events of that era and how Mises was able to correctly outline how they will play out years ahead of time. This argument is clearly nonsense. Before the credit crash of 2008, there were multiple alternative economists warning about the dangers of the derivatives bubbles and the coinciding mortgage debt bubble. Some of them many years before the negative effects became visible in the stock markets. All of them laughed at it or ignored right up until the crash, and even after it became obvious that these analysts were correct in their predictions, the mainstream still tried to snub them. As is often the case, mainstream gatekeepers in economics promotes false data as a means to mold public perception, thus aiding central banks and governments in inflating financial bubbles and perpetuating destructive fiscal practices. But once the fantasy comes tumbling down, they still seek to remain relevant. They deflect blame by claiming they had always seen the crisis coming. They were there on the front lines, fighting to educate the masses. Sometimes this is true. The mainstream does not tend to shift its rhetoric mere weeks or months before the crash happens. They never were on the front lines. They didn't see the train wreck coming. They are Johnny-come-lately, coattail-riding weasels that are seeking to protect their legacies rather than protect the populace from harm. These people downplay the work far better men and women in the alternative field as a means to elevate themselves and their fragile reputations. I believe the broken clock narrative is a coordinated disinformation campaign, an attack on analysts who, like Ludwig von Mises, have been accurately predicting the process of collapse for years. It is designed to inoculate the public to the alternative media just before they are about to be proven correct. In other words, someone knows that the ongoing collapse is becoming more obvious to the public, and that, by extension, alternative economists are about to gain more attention. We can't have that now, can we? If alternative economist predictions receive the attention they deserve, the risk for the establishment is that some of our solutions might be taken seriously as well. Solutions like the concept of decentralization and localization of production, a gold-backed currency system, the imprisonment of the banking elites that caused the crash in the first place, etc. Do you remember what happened in Iceland? I did. When all is said and done, mainstream gatekeepers hope that the alternative media and our work will be forgotten as doomsday ramblings. That one time we got lucky, but that we should be dismissed otherwise. The people who work diligently in the alternative field are meant to be discouraged, to give up. We are supposed to feel like modern-day Cassandras, cursed prophets that offer correct protections of the future that no one listens to. We are supposed to throw our hands up in the air and quit. I don't see this fourth-gen warfare tactic as being very successful, though. The establishment banks and the economists that pander to them have burnt up all their goodwill and social capital. They have been wrong so much and so often that the public is looking elsewhere for their information. This has led to the explosion in interest in alternative economic analysis. Analysis that's occurring. Whoop, I goofed up here. Sorry about that. Where are ya? Yeah, there you go. Occurring that day. The broken clock lies tells me two things. One, It tells me that the system's about to fail to the point that can no longer be covered up or denied. 2, it tells me that the establishment is worried about the amount of influence the alternative media will have as the crisis unfolds. For the past 10 years, we have been right, and the danger for the elites is that the public might find out. Henry Ford made that quote about it too. If they find out, a revolution will break. And I won't blame them one bit, folks. The truth of the matter is, the Federal Reserve is an illegal institution, period. No ands, ifs, or buts. Andrew Jackson fought a central bank, which was connected to the Bank of England. Remember, 4 presidents have died because they're going after the banks. And Andrew Jackson, he had 2. They attempted 2 or 3 times. Yep, and he had on his tombstone. He beat the banks. Yes, folks. Even if you study the fall of the Weimar Republic, very similar. Print money out of thin air. And this one thing is very dangerous. If we don't learn from the past, we're damned to repeat it. I encourage everyone out there to prep themselves to the greatest of your capabilities. Buy gold and buy hard assets, sound money, which is in our U.S. Constitution. Because they have seen money print out of thin air and it busted. The food riots happened in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania during the War of Independence against Great Britain. Just giving you an example. And that's how Hitler got into power. Thanks to fiat currency, the fall of the Weimar Republic, print money out of thin air. That's how the Nazis got into power. And it's happening everywhere. Happened in Argentina, Venezuela. Yep. Central banks ruined Venezuela. Even though I'm not crazy about their government down there either, okay? Just giving you an example. Alright? It's just one of those things. We gotta really look at the fine print. And there's another reason why General Muammar Gaddafi from Libya died. Okay? Because he decided, heard about what's going on with the African Union. He had a conscience and skipped out and warned the African people about it. And he wanted to have his own version of an African Union by using the money he has in Libya, which is backed up by gold. So yes, like him or not, he got taken out by the banks. They made this happen. Of course, Barack Obama won't admit this. Think about that, folks. Let that sink in. So this is one of the reasons why you always got to prepare yourselves the best you can, folks. Stock up. Do it because it can happen anytime. It will be one big global ripple effect. So always pay attention. Don't trust the mainstream garbage media. That will be it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or since it's interesting, want to check out whatever you do, please send your correspondence to Quorum. Furthermore, I'll leave the footnote of this article on my speaker page. And if you want to contact me via email at LokiLuck03@protonmail.com. If you want to do a donation, you can go to paypal.me or cash.app/LokiLuck3. If you want to support the Bob Livingston newsletter and all that, you subscribe. They're good folks. If you want to send donations, that'd be great. Even to Brandon Smith, you can do that too. So just look him up. And he does a lot of good work. So, like I said, just support true information, okay? Not the trend that's out there. All right, once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.